WWE Raw review for the October 6th episode of Raw. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about some wrestling, huh?
Yeah, the go-home show for Crown Jewel Perth. For Raw, what would we get? What do we get heading into Crown Jewel? Let me tell you, you got a lot of story beats tonight. And honestly, pretty dang good Raw.
Yeah, a lot of good story beats tonight. Thank you guys for stopping by the live stream on YouTube, youtube.com/CODWrestlePod. Make sure to stop by for SmackDown and Crown Jewel this weekend because it's a ton of fun. But let's get into this thing. We would have Roman Reigns starting the show. The Tribal Chief is back and he's here to talk. Kinda, because he gets his acknowledge me part off, and then Bronson Reed's music hits. Bum, bum, bum. But just Bronson Reed. It's just a tribal thief with Mr. Paul Heyman with him. And they kind of just stand there awkwardly for like a long time. And Roman's like, what are we doing here? You guys gonna talk to me? And then Paul Heyman is basically just like, oh, you're taking my shtick of coming out here and talking to the crowd. And so he showed Roman how it was done, basically. But Roman was just like, okay, basically, I'm gonna fight you guys if you want to fight. And Paul said, well, actually, we're gonna do it on our own terms because you're not the tribal chief anymore. You don't get to make everything. And matter of fact, we think you're scared of Mr. Bronson Reed because no man in the history of the WWE has ever put you down like this, but not just you, your entire family. And he lists off all of Roman Reigns' family members from the past and basically said, nobody in the bloodline history has taken a beating like Bronson Reed laid onto Roman Reigns. And so Roman Reigns replied by saying basically, let's do this thing then. Let's fight. You talk about my family. How about we'll fight right now? Paul Heyman's like, you don't get to decide where or when. We do because we're the Vision and we get to control everything. And he says, we're going to fight you at Crown Jewel in an Australian street fight. You know, Bronson Reed's very own match type, I guess. But that wasn't enough because once Roman accepted, he still wanted Bronson Reed to come to the ring and fight. And he said some things that basically egged him on. And Paul Heyman did his best to back him up, but it didn't work because Bronson Reed storms to the ring. They start to fight. Roman Reigns, Superman punches him over the barricade. And then Superman punches him again. After that, poses, throws up the ones. And that was all good stuff. So at Crown Jewel, we are going to get an Australian street fight. Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed. I love all of this. I'm popping it.
Yeah, so I'm going to pop it. And I'm going to drop it. I'm going to drop it because the promo, the Paul and Roman promo part was just weird to me. Obviously, we're just hyping up this specialty match, basically, in terms of like, hey, here you go, stipulation, boom. But so like that part was just weird to me, the whole Paul-Roman interaction. But in terms of Roman Reigns, Bronson Reed, running it back again, Australian street fight, that sounds fantastic. That sounds awesome. You look at it and it's like, okay, well, Roman versus Bronson again. You can't have Roman Reigns go ahead and get another win here. So do we get a Braun Breaker interference with the Vision? Is there some other, maybe some Jimmy, some Jey, something in terms of some sort of interference there, something like that. So but go ahead. I'm going to take Bronson Reed on this one over Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel.
Yeah, in order for this to work, you have to have Bronson Reed win it. I mean, an Australian street fight in Australia with the Vision backing him where there's no rules at all. I mean, come on. We're going to have Seth Rollins maybe involved. We're going to have Braun Breaker for sure involved. And then who knows, maybe it's time for the Vision to expand a little bit. We could even get maybe a Brock Lesnar or something involved there to set up war games down the road as well. So I do like the idea of this match happening. I do like that it's not the tag team match that we were all kind of expecting, but I also expect Bronson Reed to get the win. So should be good. We would move on though, because Asuka's backstage yelling at Adam Pearce. And what she's trying to do is she's trying to get Adam Pearce to make Io Sky face Kairi Sane tonight. And Adam Pearce is like, I'm going to have to check the schedule and make sure, so I'll get back to you. Well, then Kairi Sane walks up and Asuka's like, hey, you're going to fight Io tonight. And Kairi's like, what? No. Like, I still think I can bring her back. Why? No. Asuka screams at her. Kairi goes into her little shell, basically, and that's that. We're going to get that match later on in the night here. Then our first match was an absolute banger out of nowhere. It was Becky Lynch taking on Maxine Dupree, and they let them have a ton of time here. A lot of people on the internet are probably going to point out that they were a little rough at the edges here, all right? There were a couple botches, whatever. Wasn't that big of a deal for us. We loved every second of it. Maxine Dupree looked like an absolute star here. She at many times was like bullying the bully. That's how she started the match, was shoving Becky for bullying her last week. We would get many ankle locks, all this good stuff. She'd come out to the outside of the ring, though, or Becky would force her to the outside of the ring and start slamming her against the barricade and beating the hell out of Maxine Dupree on the outside. Well, Becky, being Becky, decides to start gloating like crazy. And she's gloating on the announce table, and she's gloating here, and she's gloating there. Meanwhile, ref's counting because she's outside the ring. Maxine Dupree, smart woman, she rolls into the ring at 9, 10 count hits, boom. Bell rings. Maxine Dupree is able to defeat Becky Lynch in a 10-second count out because Becky's just too cocky. I absolutely love this, man. I'm popping it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop it as well. Like you said, maybe a little bit rough around the edges, but at the same time, somebody like Maxine that's new that people probably want to see, or it's like, hey, how come these people don't get chances? Well, they're not going to get better if you don't give them chances. So I thought that was a perfect opportunity for her, and she shined. I mean, the crowd, she got over with the crowd, which is honestly maybe the hardest part. You know, you can have somebody in there that maybe is technically better in terms of maybe things don't look so stiff or things don't look so wonky or, you know, cluttered, things like that. But can they get over with the crowd? Maxine got over with the crowd. Becky helped her get over. This perfect person for her to be in the ring with. And you get the 10 count out, which is just really, really cool. A lot of near fall finishes as well.
Yeah.
People cheering for Maxine. All in all, thought it was great stuff. The ref was Jessica Carr, so that's important to note.
Yeah, later in the night, we would actually get Becky Lynch backstage with Seth Rollins, and she was just throwing a temper tantrum, if I could talk. And she was, saying that Jessica Carr was a rigged ref, and so she was screaming about it. But in terms of this match, loved it to death, man. I think Maxine Dupree's worked her butt off outside of Raw, outside of TV, right? And she gets a chance to shine here. They give her a ton of time. Yes, rough around the edges. There were a couple things to nitpick, but this is exactly what you want. You have one of your biggest and best stars, Becky Lynch, helping someone like Maxine get a good match under her belt on Raw. Gets a win in this way. It doesn't hurt anybody. If anything, it just boosts Maxine Dupree up. Like, I think this is just perfect. It was absolutely great. The crowd was loving it. I was loving it. I was happy.
And the 10 count, before we move on, the 10 count victory is awesome. You get a great moment. You get Maxine, I got to win over Becky Lynch. And Becky is just so cocky.
Yeah.
Like, it all just played in. Just great stuff.
Absolutely great. We would go backstage, though, and Jey and Jimmy are backstage with Roman. And Jay's like, I'm gonna back you up, Roman. Like, you don't need any help other than me. I'm gonna back you up. And Roman kind of looks at Jey and is like, I don't want your help because you're supposed to be doing you, basically. And he's like, hey, didn't I hear that CM Punk gets the top of the hour segment, not you? And Jey walks off mad about that. He wants to change that. But Roman goes over to Big Jim and is like, you don't think I hear everything that's being said about me right now? And he basically gives Jim the look of like, hey, I'm hearing everything you're telling me or telling Jey about me. So basically shut up. We get more of this throughout the night, but this was a good first step. We would get another match here. I mean, a bunch of women's matches here tonight, and they were all great. It was Lyra versus Roxanne. Of course, before the match, Bayley wanted to join Lyra because they're kind of back to being friends things.
For right now.
Yeah. And Lyra was like, yep, you can come out with me tonight. And this one was a great technical match. If you wanted something completely different from the Becky Maxine that was a little bit rough around the edges, this was just technical wrestling at its absolute finest. It complemented it perfectly. Rox would do this crazy spot where she took Lyra's arm to the ring post and bent it over the ring post and stomped on it. Mm-hmm. So then the rest of the match, Roxanne was working Lyra's arm. It was absolutely crazy. But of course, Lyra would get a little bit of a hot streak going. She'd go to the top rope, and that's when Raquel would insert herself. But when Raquel inserted herself, Bayley actually came over and helped Lyra, saved the day from Lyra just for a minute. But in all the craziness that happened, because they all started taking each other out after that, right? Raquel and Bayley and Lyra and Roxanne, everything was going crazy. Lyra was distracted with the Bayley and Raquel thing that was happening. Rox got the best of her, did the Pop Rocks tour, and got the 1, 2, 3. After the match, of course, Raquel and Roxanne were trying to beat up on Lyra. Bayley scared him off, and then she was pissed off to the point where she was like, we need to go kick their butts right here, right now. And we find out later on that they actually beat them all the way back into the parking lot, basically, because they were slamming them into the walls and all that stuff in the garage area. So this was fantastic. We get a match next week with it. I'm popping all of it.
Yeah, like I said, we get a match next week, so that's going to be awesome. That's going to be great. Right winner here. I think a lot of people were maybe like, oh, what about Roxanne? Well, she gets a win here, so that's awesome. That's great. Her and Raquel look great coming out of this. But the story is Lyra and Bayley and their friendship, and how does that work? You have Bayley kind of standing up for Lyra and, basically being the friend this week in terms of, hey, those people hurt you. I'm going to stand up for them. I'm going to attack you. Hey, you know what? They got one over on us, but we're not going to let that slide. We're going to go after them. We're going to try to beat them up. So right now you got the friend. Now, does that carry over into next week? That is the question. I think next week we might see a little bit more of the angrier side of Bayley towards Lyra.
Yeah, what stuck out the most to me from this was that like Lyra kind of was being heelish at the end of the match. Like, yes, of course, Roxanne and Raquel attacked them, and it's kind of getting back when people do wrong to you. But Lyra's normally kind of got her head on straight, right? She's very good by the face. Bailey had talked her into going backstage, beating up on Roxanne and Raquel, something that you don't normally see from Lyra. So it feels like Bailey's maybe changing Lyra's attitude, making her bad.
Yeah, maybe not full on, obviously, heel, but definitely not the over the top baby face that Lyra seems to be, right? In terms of dotting the I's and crossing the T's sort of thing. So nice to see if maybe we can get maybe a little bit edgier Lyra coming out of this as well.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I'm all for more character development for my girl, Lyra Valkyria. We would get AJ Styles backstage, and he was talking to Adam Pearce about maybe wanting a tag team championship match or even going after Dom's IC belt. But of course, Dom and Finn and JD, hey, they're the tag team champions if you forgot. I think we all did. But they were there, and Finn was basically like, you and Dragon Lee don't want to come for these titles. And AJ was like, okay, we'll come for all three of you tonight. Me and Dragon Lee, and we'll get a partner. They went up and got Penta, so we're doing that later in the night as well.
Side note, before we move on, shout out Dominic Mysterio for your shirt.
Oh, yeah.
It is him playing PSP as a kid. Super cool.
Pretty good shirt. I wish I could put myself on a shirt.
If they put that on the shop, I'd probably buy it. I mean,
it was so good. We would move on. We get our returning CM Punk. Haven't seen him since the WrestlePalooza match. And he would come out and basically say, thank you for welcoming back AJ Lee, which we were all like, don't worry, Mr. Punk. We'll do that any day of the week. He said he was going to stay out of Seth's business for now in respect for Cody Rhodes. So he wasn't going to get involved with the match this weekend, whatever happens between the two of them. But he does want to end the year with that championship. So he's still coming for Seth Rollins. And he says that, I've been in your head and we beat you at WrestlePalooza. So I'm next in line, basically. That's when LA Knight, he came out and he was like, yeah, but no to you, Mr. CM Punk. Nah, Mr. CM Punk. I know that you beat him, but I'm the last guy to beat him. And by the way, he beat you for the title. By the way, you already had a title. By the way, I never get title shots. By the way, I'm 2-0 Seth Rollins while you got beat by him. So I'm next. Yeah,
It lasted 5 minutes. Well, that's 5 minutes more than you lasted. I mean,
he was talking
back and forth.
He was talking that smack, man. But that's when Jey Uso came out because Roman obviously had spoken to beforehand. And Jey Uso comes out and he said he's thinking clear now. He thinks that he's the one now, which means he's up next because he never got his rematch. He just popped up in his head. We're like, well, you get in line, Jey.
I mean, you're also not wrong. Like, all three of these men have valid points. Like, okay, yeah.
And they start to get a little chippy in the ring, right? And that means Big Jim has to come out and help his brother. And LA Knight immediately just super kicks Jey Uso immediately super kicks LA Knight before Jim even gets there. But then the Punk Jey thing starts to go down because they are a little bit friends, right? Mm-hmm. And Punk's basically like, I respect you, but you need to get back of the line.
He did say, and I quote, I love Jey Uso.
Yeah.
Not Little Roman.
He did. Good to point that out. It was a big segment. He did call him Little Roman. That is a big deal. But anyway, Jey was going to attack CM Punk, but Jim stopped him. And then when Jim backed away, Punk took the moment to attack Jey. And so that led to everybody, hell broke loose after that one. We find out later that we would get a tag team match at the end of the night. So that's
Jey does super kick CM Punk at that point.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Big Jim super kicks him.
He does.
Because you can tell Big Jim's look on his face is, I didn't want to have to do this, but I had to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody is coming after Jey Uso. Jey Uso being called Little Roman. I mean, he's getting feisty with absolutely everybody. I absolutely love all this. I'm popping it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this as well. Like you said, a little bit lengthier in terms of, hey, who is really the number one contender for Seth Rollins? Is it CM Punk? Is it LA Knight? Is it Jey Uso? But it's all revolving around Jey Uso in terms of he's coming for what's his. He thinks he's up next. He's got this new attitude. Roman tells him, hey, if you want this, go get it. You look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, this is great Jey Uso stuff. Roman also tells Big Jim, hey, sometimes you got to just fall in line. Sometimes you just got to support your brother because when Jey won that title, he became closer to me than he did to you. And I said, oh boy, that is a big note. That is important to note. That is huge. Roman talking to his cousin like that. That's blasphemous, but it's also correct. I mean, so this all Jey Uso stuff is fantastic. We keep getting more and more layers to it all. And I'm finding myself loving every minute of it.
Yeah, this whole Little Roman thing is it's so intriguing to me because we all knew back when they started the bloodline thing, that was kind of like they planted the seeds even then. It was like the story would eventually wrap around and Jey would take up this tribal chief mantle. But now we're doing it in the form of like, sure, he is kind of going to take up that tribal chief mantle, but it's going to be him just being a copycat Roman Reigns, which is a very, very bad thing. And Roman's there to support him. Big Jim sees through all of it because he lived through all of it. Everybody else sees through it. You know, it's just great storytelling. It's so much better than him just being a yeet man and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to every second of it because I absolutely love it. We'll get a Io Sky hype package. Basically, she said that she's not family with the Kabuki Warriors anymore. She sees through their lies. So that's definitely something to
It's a little bit of a plea to Kyrie at that point as well, in terms of like, hey, I'm begging you to see that Asuka's not really doing this for you. It's all for her.
Right.
So really good stuff.
It is good stuff. Let me change my notes here for a minute. That's when we would get our Io versus Kyrie Sane match. And we were all like, how is Kyrie Sane going to react to this? Because obviously she said earlier in the night that she still thinks of Io as family. Well, Io immediately dives out of the ring and takes out Asuka, which sends a spark into Kyrie's head, and Asuka's screaming at Kyrie to go do your job. So that leads to just a great match here. I mean, these two have all the chemistry in the world, as expected. I mean, Kyrie got her on the outside. Alabama slammed Io's head into the apron, which was a wild spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost like Kevin Owens powerbomb Sami Zayn. Remember how he used to do the powerbomb? Almost like that. It was brutal looking.
It was absolutely insane. Eventually, though, Kyrie goes for the insane elbow, but Io gets her feet up. But that's when Asuka decides to attack because Io was going to go for over the moonsault. And so all that ensues. Io is trying to take out Asuka. Asuka is not putting her hands on Io, making sure that there's no disqualification involved. Kyrie goes for this roll-up pin kind of with an arch, and Asuka grabs Kyrie's hands to keep the pin alive. 1, 2, 3. Kyrie's able to get the win over Io Sky. Asuka attacks after the match, forces Kyrie to attack as well, and Kyrie gets the insane elbow on to Io Sky. So take-home episode to Crown Jewel. Kyrie saying, Asuka, they stand tall over Io Sky. It looks like Kyrie is maybe leaning toward being Asuka's family member over Io. Popping it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this as well. This was fantastic stuff. Like you said, all the chemistry in the world between these two. There have been wrestling each other since they were teenagers, right? Just years and years and years. I was a little hesitant, or I guess not hesitant, but I was wondering, hey, how is this going to go? What does Kyrie look like? What does Asuka look like? Do they end up standing tall over Io on the Go Home show? Because we know what that typically means. No Rhea there tonight. She is in Australia doing media. But honestly, I loved everything I got out of this match. I love Asuka. I love Io. Her anger towards Asuka kind of taking over at certain points just to start out the match. So it's going to be interesting to see, can Io Sky kind of hold that anger in during that match, or does that maybe somehow come into play? We also got a more aggressive Kyrie Sane tonight, which is what I was, and I think you were as well, really wanting for, really pushing for. Can we maybe take that to the next level? So this really just built the intrigue more and more for that match at Crown Jewel.
Yeah, I've 100% bought into this. I was 100% bought into it beforehand. I didn't mind Rhea not being there. The story really is revolving around the Io stuff. Io and Kyrie, to be specific. And tonight was definitely a big step in terms of, well, Kyrie obviously is just listening to what Asuka says, right? But she kind of had no problem after the fact of when Io attacked Asuka. Like when Io kind of broke that line to start the match, that kind of looked like Kyrie was able to set aside the family thing for a minute and go to work, in my opinion. Like that's sort of what she was going for. So the whole thing this Sunday or this Saturday at Crown Jewel is going to be the will she, won't she, when it comes to leaning fully into what side of the fence she's going to be on, Io's side or Asuka's side. And tonight here on Raw, that just gave me more story-wise for that. So I'm just looking forward to Crown Jewel. It's going to be good storytelling there as well.
Yeah, and on the beatdown a little bit, she does look a little hesitant in terms of attacking at the end, but it all ended up being good.
Yeah, it did. I'm not going to do it justice, but there was an amazing Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins promo video package, like kind of how they do their part 1, part 2 stuff that they do. But this thing was incredible. I mean, Seth Rollins was talking about how he became, no one can do this alone, and he pointed to the bloodline for that. But so Cody needed him as his shield, and then but even after they defeated Roman, Cody let Roman back into his life. So Cody just isn't the man fit. He can't make the hard decisions. He's not fit to run the WWE. I mean, this video is awesome. I mean, you just can't.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. If you haven't seen it, if you didn't get to watch it live, go try to find it. I'm sure it's up somewhere. Seth Rollins makes a lot of valid points that you kind of look at it and be like, yeah, Cody, he did kind of sacrifice all this. And I thought this was the goal, but you did just let him walk right back in, and you kind of accepted him back with open arms, being like, yeah, we know how Cody is, that over-the-top babyface that no matter what happens, he seems to let people back in. So great stuff here. Seth Rollins just continues to be fantastic, continue to be dynamite. So I couldn't be more excited for this match already. Like I was already super bought in already. Like, okay, this is a level 10 excitement for me, this and that tag match that we just spoke about. But it just really kind of drives it home. This is like almost like a Mania level build that they're doing for this, and it's Crown Jewel. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Speaking of Seth Rollins, we would get really good stuff with him because he's backstage with Paul, and he pulls Paul aside again. He's like, hey, Paul, what if I lose? And Paul is doing that thing again where he's like, you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose. You're not going to lose. Well, then he gets real serious. Like, Paul, what if I lose? What happens? And Paul says, basically, you're going to lose everybody. You're going to lose the locker room, lose the vision, and kind of everything. And Seth pulls him aside one more time and says, what about you? What about the Oracle? What happens if I lose? If I lose, what happens to you? And that's when Paul Heyman looks at him and says, I have to ask why I picked you over Roman Reigns. So really, all stakes for Seth Rollins going into Crown Jewel, man.
Yeah, all stakes. And Seth has a really good point, or I guess his question goes, well, Paul, you forgot about one person. And there was a pause there. And you're like, oh, is he talking about Brock Lesnar? Because they've hinted at the Brock Lesnar stuff and everybody's brought it up. But then he does bring up Paul Heyman. So Paul basically has that doubt of like, why did I choose you over Roman? And if he loses, does he go back to Brock?
That's insane, man. That's a good story.
The vision stuff, like I know we talk about it. Oh, it starts out the show and it ends the show every week. And at times that can be kind of boring. But now that you kind of peel back the layers like an onion, good stuff.
When Seth and Paul are actively involved with each other, it feels like the vision, that's when the vision storyline's great. Like I love Braun and Bronson Reed, but they're the meat and potatoes are Seth and Paul Heyman, man. So then we would get our triple threat or our 6-man tag team match. AJ Styles, Dragon Lee, Penta versus Dom, Finn, and JD. And this thing was fantastic, honestly. They went absolutely crazy. The match started with a triple suicide dive by AJ and them, so they were going crazy. But the Judgment Day were got most of the offense in throughout this match. Hard to explain. They gave us a lot of time. They were doing a bunch of acrobatics, man. If you want the full breakdown, go watch it. But the important stuff happens at the end here because Dom actually gets the best of AJ Styles for a second. He has him set up in the 619 when Rusev comes storming out there. Sorry for my lack of excitement on my face, but he comes storming out there. Dom immediately gets out of the ring and starts running away. And he runs away to the point where Penta backs him up and super kicks Rusev. I think he was going for a super kick on Dom, but he ends up hitting Rusev, and Dom's able to get away from it after that. That leads us to a Dom versus Penta Intercontinental Championship match next week as well. But it looks like Rusev is back in the IC title scene with Dom. I'm not here for that really, so I'll drop that. So AJ Styles after the match did get on a mic and say that him and John Cena are going to tear the house down, so that was pretty good. But I'm going to drop this whole thing.
Yeah, the 6-man match was fine. Like, it was cool. You kind of know what you're going to get with all 6 of those men, and that's what you kind of got here. Like you said, gave it a lot of time. In terms of the takeaway, yeah, I understand Dom's kind of the cowardly heel, and he likes to lie, cheat, steal sort of thing. But I don't really like seeing him run. I would have liked to see him at least maybe try to put up a fight. I don't know. It's just the Rusev stuff, like you said, I'm kind of out on it. I thought maybe after the one match that was done and over with, but it looks like now we're going back to it again. So who really knows? Obviously, Rusev's going to interfere in the match next week. Maybe you get a triple threat, but not excited. I would rather it just be Dom Penta.
Yeah, I hate to be so negative on Rusev. I get it. We should probably be giving him some more love, but it's just the same character that we've seen. And it seems like all the good stuff around Dom is everything except for Rusev. Like even just Penta by himself, that's good. You could run back AJ. That still feels like it's good. The Finn stuff, that's a will they, won't they thing. That feels good. And then there's Rusev, which is just sort of like big brawling brute mad at Dom, want IC title. That just feels like low-hanging fruit out of all of it. So when there's so much splendid stuff around him, I'd rather him do that than regress back to the Rusev storyline. That's my take on it, really. Then we would get our main event here. It was CM Punk and LA Knight taking on the Usos, and this hell broke loose right away because CM Punk and LA Knight came out second, and they just went for the attack. And of course, CM Punk and LA Knight, they were taking turns beating up on Jay to see who could do more damage to the boy. So they were going one by one, smacking each other with their tags and everything, being pretty disrespectful to each other throughout the entire thing. The Usos would get the best of LA Knight for most of this thing, but when Punk got in, he did hit like a yeet and then did an elbow drop to, I think it was to Jay. But all hell breaks loose at the end with this one too. People hitting their finishers. Jey spears CM Punk, and that leaves LA Knight is able to at least get Jay's attention for enough time for Punk to get up, hit the GTS onto Jey Uso, but LA Knight tags himself in forcefully on CM Punk and takes the pin, pins Jey Uso 1, 2, 3 here. So night ends with LA Knight and CM Punk defeating Jey Uso, and that's just kind of how we go off the air. This all feels like we're leading to a CM Punk, LA Knight, Jey Uso triple threat of some sort to decide who's next for that world title. That's awesome. I'm ready for that. I'll pop it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop that as well. I really don't know how you couldn't, honestly. Earlier in the night with the promos in terms of maybe you should be in the tag division, Jay, Jimmy, maybe you guys should just be a tag. LA and CM Punk kind of both said that stuff. And they're like, well, actually, you guys kind of suck as a tag team because they did lose. Well, they take another loss here. It was a fine match. Nothing to really write home about in terms of the match. But the CM Punk, LA Knight dynamic I thought was really interesting because they didn't want to tag, but they tagged anyway. You get CM Punk hitting that GTS and basically being like, yep, I won the match. And LA Knight sneaks in. So now LA Knight can say, hey, we won that match because of me, not you, CM Punk. CM Punk can say, well, wait a minute, I hit my finisher. And meanwhile, you have Jay taking the pin, but Jay can somehow, some way blame Jimmy for that. So all in all, just really good stuff here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I like how LA Knight was able to get the pin here because that adds another layer to like LA Knight's point of like, I only get wins right now when necessary, right? He pinned Seth Rollins or he beat him twice. He pinned him once and then he got the DQ victory that he mentioned earlier in the night. And then he gets this win. So he can kind of point to himself and be like, I'm obviously next up. Like that needs to happen. But overall with this whole triple threat thing, I think they all have good reasons to say that they deserve a title shot, which I like. And then these three are always at the point where it's like we always go, okay, well, what's next for these guys? Why not just throw all three of them in the ring together, have them fight, decide a world heavyweight championship, number one contender, and then we move on with it. I'm just excited for it at the end of the day. The end of the Raw wasn't that incredible or anything by that, but I like what it's leading to, so I'm going to give it a pop.
Yep.
That's about it, though. We had 12 pops to 3 drops. Solid episode of Raw here. Thank you guys for stopping by our live stream at youtube.com/COD WrestlePod. Please stop by for SmackDown and Crown Jewel later this week. And then for everything else, it's at COD WrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. We have a link tree in our bio to lead you to all of our socials. Please like, follow, share, subscribe to all those because we are confident you'll love that type of content. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. And we'll see you next time.